Thank you for joining. Today, we're kicking off the third in a series of Insightly product webinars, and today's focus is on dashboards. Insightly holds critical information about the health of your business and how it's performing, and we'll spend time in this webinar showing you how to leverage dashboards to beautifully visualize the data that you already have in Insightly to gain real insights into your business performance. I'm Melinda Prescher, Insightly's Senior Product Marketing Manager. I've got two exceptional guests with us today, each with their own unique perspective on dashboards. Jonathan Bernwieser is the CEO and founder of a cutting-edge ag tech firm called Agrando, based in Munich, Germany. I'll be interviewing him later in the webinar so you can hear more about the innovative ways that his team is using dashboards and reporting to guide Agrando's business performance. I've also got Insightly's senior sales leader with us today. Mark Ripley is our vice president of sales, and he's going to give you an insider's view to the way that he uses Insightly dashboards to review his team's performance in real time and guide the team to future success. So let's walk through the agenda for today. We're going to start with the challenges that we hear most from customers when they're using Excel spreadsheets or third-party solutions to visualize their data. Then I'll spend some time talking about how Insightly solves those challenges and walk you through a few tips for building great dashboards. Next, Mark will jump in with his perspective on visualizing Insightly's data and discuss best practices for driving business results through dashboards. And finally, I'll interview Jonathan so you can see how he and his team have used dashboards to get real-time access to Agrando's performance and drive strong calls to action on the team as they work to grow their business quickly. I've got a couple of Insightly team members here answering questions throughout this 30-minute discussion, but if we don't get to your question before the webinar is over, I'll have someone from Insightly get in touch with you as soon as possible. So let's get into the challenges. First, we hear from many customers like Jonathan that they actually start out by using Excel to visualize their data, but quickly find that it doesn't deliver on what they need in real time. By the time they're reviewing the data, it's no longer relevant. It also takes a tremendous amount of time to gather data and do the heavy lifting of consolidating it. That might be workable if you have armies of business analysts to do the legwork, but even if you do, you're still not seeing your data in real time. Along with that, it's really easy for data entry mistakes to be made. And try finding that mistake in a sea of numbers. Finally, customers also find that they're spending time trying to align across groups to get to a single source of truth. Inevitably, different people are using different processes to develop the lens that they're using to define KPIs, making it really difficult to align on a shared vision and take the right next steps. All that said, third-party tools aren't the answer either. You need to get your data into the platform to be able to visualize it. And in most cases, this means that you need a technical resource to map the data and keep it updated. The tools themselves and the FTE required to manage it are additional expenses that you might not be prepared to support. Beyond the specialized roles and processes needed to manage third-party solutions, there may also be security issues as you're mapping the data, because it's really easy to lose those permissions on the original data set when it's mapped into the third-party application. So how does Insightly help with our dashboard solution? So great dashboards should empower you to tell the story of your business performance to anyone in the company, even if they aren't familiar with the work that you're doing or the data that you're analyzing. They should help you understand even more about your business, get to the right answers faster, and they should generate even more thoughtful questions about the direction that you can take your business. Building dashboards in Insightly allows everyone, even non-technical users, the opportunity to create interactive, real-time visualizations in just a few minutes. With Insightly, you can customize around your unique KPIs so that your key metrics are visible at a glance, and you have the ability to make decisions based on what's happening with your business in real time. There are no lags, there's no reviewing data in the rearview mirror, so you can feel more confident in the direction and the decisions that you're making. And you can easily share the data so that others are able to see exactly what you're seeing. In just a few minutes, Mark will be looking at how he uses Insightly to forecast sales, to get a view to his team's performance metrics, and really understand the health of his business so he can drive results proactively. Both Mark and Jonathan will share really great details around how they use dashboards to drill down into the performance of different parts of their business, like new business, renewals, and upsell, for example, and how that gets rolled up to the bigger picture, all at a glance. Insightly dashboards allow you to get everyone on the same page regarding business metrics. So everyone's working from the same information. You're not wasting cycles agreeing on the validity of numbers. You can review as a team and make decisions collaboratively about how to invest your team's time. For example, Mark and Jonathan use the data and dashboards to accelerate lead generation and opportunity conversion. They're also leveraging dashboards to maximize the interaction between sales and marketing so that they can accelerate deal conversion. They can review business performance daily or hourly, share it across teams, and get everyone rowing the boat in the same direction really quickly. Insightly offers over 50 dashboard types with lots of options to visualize data in ways that make it easier to understand. We've got maps for regional views, gauges to demonstrate how close you are to quarterly or yearly goal attainment, and bar charts to compare performance between different team members or product lines. We're also constantly iterating dashboards to make them even more valuable, and an upcoming improvement will be trend lines on charts, for example. So we wanted to share some tips on creating successful dashboards, things to think about as you start to dig into dashboards. First, don't overwhelm your audience with too much information. Keep in mind that you're sharing data with people who probably aren't used to looking at the world from your perspective. Don't assume your audience knows where to start or how to interpret the data that's right in front of them. You may need to provide a short guide to make sure that everyone has a baseline understanding of how to consume that information. Focus on telling a very simple story that will allow users to understand at a glance, generate their conclusions, and hopefully ask new questions about the direction that your business can go. Following on to that, keep it simple enough so that busy executives can extract the information that they need when they need it. Think about how busy everyone is, how often you're asking others for information that you yourself have been asked to deliver to someone else very quickly. What are the top 2 to 3 data views you can create that will help your leaders demonstrate credibility through their understanding of the business? Ultimately, the point here is you want to be able to make your leaders and others on the team look great. Making them look great will help you shine too. Think carefully about consistent naming conventions. If you have a series of dashboard cards about marketing topics, for example, something that shows the linkage between topics will make it much easier to understand the data at a glance. So for example, you could use a series of charts that would be marketing leads, marketing pipeline, marketing conversion, so everyone understands the linkage between 3 different dashboard cards. Have you ever poured hours into creating a dashboard or any other report, but when you show it to someone, they seem confused or didn't interact with the dashboard in the way that you hoped? It may seem obvious to you as the builder what you were trying to get to, what the intent and the takeaways should be. Dashboards, like many things in business, are an iterative process. Don't lose sight of the overarching goal that your dashboard should be relevant and easy to use. Get feedback from multiple users, share your perspectives, and collaborate and iterate to get the most from your dashboards. And finally, use the right chart type for the job. If you want to share regional differences in sales, show it on a map. If you want to see percent to goal, use a gauge. If you want to understand the breakdown in leads generated by marketing activity, use a pie chart. We've got so many ways to bring your data to life. And this is actually a great opportunity for us to transition to the next phase of our discussion. So now I'm going to have Mark jump in here so you can see how he uses dashboards to help guide his business. I'm going to stop sharing, Mark, and hand it over to you.
Thank you, Melinda. All right, before I share my desktop, I'm going to share my desktop in a second and show you some really neat charts in a dashboard. But before I do that, I wanted to frame, like, what's the purpose? Why do I use dashboards? So my goal is to maximize revenue today and tomorrow. And I want to maximize every possible revenue opportunity for Insightly. The problem is, if I have to rely on heavy analysis with spreadsheets, I have two challenges. One, the data is stale, it's delayed by weeks, sometimes even months. And the reality of it is, in my experience, is a lot of times if I'm doing heavy analysis on spreadsheets, it's not getting done consistently, is the reality. So it leads to reactive decision-making and a lot of guessing, which is the opposite of what we're trying to accomplish. So the fundamental question I want to know in my business is what's working and what's not. I want to know it in real time, all the time. This enables me to throw gas or double down on the things that are working to accelerate revenue and understand what's not working before it blows up and gets into something bigger so that I can solve it before it escalates. It's really the difference between being proactive and reactive. With dashboards, I can see into the future, I can see around corners before things happen. It's a bit like a crystal ball. So again, it helps me drive and maximize revenue today, but also into the future for tomorrow. Okay, so in my brief time today, I'm going to show you the sales lens of using dashboards. And this data that I'm about to show you is fictitious, but the structure is very real, and it mirrors how I personally use dashboards here inside of it. So dashboards, of course, are used in a lot of areas in the business. Today, I'm going to focus on the sales lens. Okay, so let's start at the top. Right now, you're looking at an Insightly dashboard that is replicating some of the charts that I use on an active basis. All right, so in the upper left-hand corner, the big gauge that you see is just, boom, at a high level, how are we doing against our quarterly goal? In this example, you'll see the title up top says VP of Sales Q4 2020. So if we use this kind of example and think of ourselves about 80% of the way through the quarter, and then I look at this number and I say, okay, we're 89% to our goal. I'm feeling really good about that. Good. Now, on the right-hand side, you'll see three more gauges: inbound percent to goal, outbound percent to goal, and upsell percent to goal. These are three ways, fundamental categories of our business. So inbound is how much revenue I'm generating from inbound leads. Thank you, marketing. You see outbound, this reflects us hunting and going out and finding new prospects and businesses. And then down below, you see upsell at 117%. So inbound is tracking, outbound, I've got a problem. So this tells me I need to dive in immediately and allocate resources and energy to get this back on track. Upsell is doing fantastic. They've already hit their goal, they're doing fantastic. So can I allocate more resources to upsell? Can I double down on that? Can I get more out of that source right now that's doing exceptionally well? So for you, think about these three subcategories. It could be anything, right? It could be region. So perhaps it's West Coast, Central, and East Coast. It could be North America, Europe, Asia Pacific, and Latin America. It could be a fourth one. But the fundamental premise is that you want to see how you're doing at a high level, and then very quickly understand the key categories within your business and how those are tracking in real time. Okay, so if we move on down, so now let's take a look at the two bar charts down below. One says booking leaderboard, and then the one on the right says pipeline this quarter. So I want to comment for a second on why leaderboards are so powerful. The reason, it's very simple yet very effective chart to use. And the reason it's so effective is it taps into the human being's kind of natural competitive juices. So it gets people, inspires sales folks to go above and beyond. Why? Everyone wants to be at the top. So you're charging, you're pushing yourself to be at the top, and conversely, no one wants to be at the bottom. So if you're near the bottom, it's going to push you to get back on top and find success. Extremely effective. Okay, so let me walk you through this. So on the left-hand side, we have a leaderboard. So this is showing my handful of AEs, my sales folks. I have 6 sales folks in this example. And you can see that Jenny is killing it. She's on top. She's having a fantastic quarter. And at first glance, it looks like Alyssa could be having a hard quarter, right? This may not be her quarter. Okay, so this tells part of the story. But what I like to look at is right on the right-hand side, right immediately next to my bookings leaderboard, is I want to look at the pipeline leaderboard. And I'll show you how I use this in tandem together to understand what's going to happen before it happens. So if I look at Jenny, she's obviously doing exceptionally well from a booking standpoint this quarter. Good. If I look over her pipeline's a little on the light side, but it's okay. She has a lot booked already in the bag. Good. If I look at Doug here, so Doug also having a really strong month, a quarter from a booking standpoint, also a really strong pipeline. He's going to be in great shape. Let's look at Lauren. So Lauren's doing okay from a booking standpoint, but if I look over here at her pipeline, now I have an orange flag going off in my head. She might be in trouble. She may not have the pipeline to get where she needs to go for the quarter. So from a coaching perspective, what this tells me is I need to jump in with Lauren, or have my managers jump in with Lauren and help her understand how to generate more pipeline so that she can be successful in the future. Let's look at Beth. Beth is like okay, kind of middle of the pack in terms of bookings, but again, same story as Lauren, light on pipeline. So from a coaching standpoint, I'm a little worried, and I want to make sure I proactively help her create pipeline at an accelerated clip for future success. Let's look at Wes. Wes is a little bit lighter on bookings, but he has a healthy pipeline. Okay. So my coaching strategy there is to jump in and help him close these deals that he has in his pipeline. Last, you look at Alyssa. So clearly not where she wants to be from a booking standpoint, but looking over here, she has it. She has a really big pipeline for the quarter. So I'm not worried about her, but what I want to do is, from a coaching standpoint, is I want to go in, understand the deals that she has in play, the opportunities she has in play, and help her make sure she can close all those and come out on top from a booking standpoint. So this is how I use the leaderboard and the pipeline leaderboard right in tandem to see what's going to happen before it happens and inform how I coach immediately. Okay, let's keep scrolling. So these three Skittles charts here, the marketing one, so we have 1, 2, and 3. I use all of these three together. Excuse me. So in the upper left-hand corner, what I'm looking at is I have 90 leads that marketing has created for me this quarter. And what this is telling me is, if I mouse over this, where are the leads coming from? So in this case, I have 12 leads that came from a conference. I have 31 leads that came from a newsletter. Okay, that's good, but it's not telling me pipeline contribution or bookings. So because we have the marketing and the CRM on the same platform, marketing and sales are lined up. They're locked in together. So if I look over here at this next card, it shows me my pipeline. Where is the pipeline coming from? So just because I get a lot of leads from a certain source in marketing doesn't mean it's going to contribute to pipeline or bookings. So looking at this is showing me pipeline contribution, and then I come down here and I can quickly see, okay, what's the revenue impact? What's the bookings impact from these different lead sources? So it's tying it all together. So there's an old marketing adage, right, that says, I know I'm wasting half my marketing budget, I just don't know which half, right? So these dashboards help to solve that question. So if we're spending money on a campaign that's not generating pipeline or bookings, we can kill it and reallocate that money to the campaigns that are generating the most pipeline and the most bookings. Coming back to my fundamental question of maximizing revenue. That's what this is how I use these three charts tied together. I want to show this Geo Card, and Melinda mentioned this earlier in her part. This is really neat. So at a glance, you can see what your pipeline looks like or what your bookings looks like by geo. So in this example, maybe I'm headquartered in California, but what I'm realizing is, wow, Texas is a hotspot. New York, I kind of know the hotspot, but look at Texas. I have a strong pipeline in there. Maybe I allocate more resources. Maybe I add a salesperson in Texas if this trend continues. This geography-based chart, we also have global charts. So really, wherever you sell into and do business into, you can have this visual on your business, which is really healthy. Okay, there's two more charts that I want to show you. The lower left-hand corner is a fictitious one, so you'll see some kind of random names in here. But what this is really handy for is you see this table inside a dashboard card, which is really helpful. So think about this is whenever you have a number of anything that you want to see how it's performing at a glance, this is it. So for example, in this example, we have a whole bunch of SKUs. We sell a bunch of products, and at a glance, we want to see how these products are doing from a bookings, from a revenue standpoint. It's always real time, always at your fingertips. But product is one example. It could also be offices. Maybe you sell through offices and you have 20 offices, and you want to see at a glance each office and how they're performing at your fingertips. It could be region, it could be anything where you have a lot of something and you want to see the numbers straight away in an easily digestible form. And the final chart that I wanted to show you is on the right-hand side. One of the things that I really focus on is how much pipeline we're creating, because this tells me what revenue we're going to be generating in the quarters of the future. It's a very important leading indicator. It's my most important leading indicator. So in this example down here below, we're looking at the amount of new pipeline created on a quarter by quarter basis. So if I look at Q1, good. Looks like in Q2, I launched a new product. So we had a bunch of pipeline created from the upsell category. Okay, makes sense. I launched a product. I was expecting a bunch of pipeline. Good. Now in Q3, that's a problem, right? I know when I see this that I'm going to have issues later on. Now the reality of it is my team was probably really busy closing all this pipeline. There's a natural rhythm to this, but at the same time, we can't let this happen. Like this was a mistake if this were to happen in the real world. But if I'm in the middle of Q3 and I see this happening, I'm going to jump all over and allocate resources to fix my pipeline creation process. And as you can tell in this example, it worked. So back in Q4, now we're generating more pipeline than we did in Q1, and we're only 80% of the way through the quarter. So this helps me look and identify issues before they get really bad so that I can fix them, optimize, and then maximize revenue. So that's the last chart that I wanted to show you. The thing that I wanted to leave you with is that if you're unfamiliar with Insightly dashboards, it may seem like these are really complex to create. Fundamentally, when we built dashboards from the very beginning, the intent and the really mission critical purpose was to make them the easiest and most simple dashboards on the market, so that non-technical folks like me could have access to this data in real time, so that I can maximize revenue wherever that might be. So if you have any questions, of course, get in touch with us. We can help you understand how to use dashboards. We even have folks that can build dashboards for you, and that way you can learn hands-on. But back to you, Melinda. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark, for sharing your perspective on this. Really, really good stuff. Let me get back to where I'm at here. And next, we're going to turn to our interview with Jonathan to get his perspective as CEO of Agrando and learn more about how Insightly helps him and his team proactively guide their business decisions. So, Jonathan, welcome. Tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and Agrando.
Sure. Hi, guys. It's a pleasure to be here and to share a bit of our experience. I'm Jonathan. I'm 32 years old. I am the founder and CEO of Agrando. We are located here in Munich, in Germany. Maybe a few words about myself. I originally come from a very traditional farm from southern Germany. We have a dairy farm. I am, I guess, important to say, the second born son in my family, which also meant that I had to figure out for myself how my future would look like. This is something that I did with a lot of passion. Since I'm 16, I'm really following my big passion for IT and tech. I became a software engineer, did that for several years, studied business informatics at the Technical University of Munich, and during this time also started to develop a big passion for organizations and entrepreneurship in general. And yeah, I guess if you would wrap it up, like, who's Jonathan? I'm like an agricultural tech guy with a big passion for entrepreneurship.
Excellent. How did you decide to start Agrando?
I guess, like, if you know, picture who is Jonathan, I think it's quite easy to, like, at least imagine what happened. At a certain time, I was simply at home, and I realized how crazy this is, that like I've known my home the way how I've grown up, but actually, like, I'm sitting at the heart of quite a big producing enterprise here. And even more ironic is that my dad is not just my dad, he's the managing director of that company. And when you look at the way how you do things, or how like farmers do things, especially from like my professional perspective of doing everything digital, you realize that there's a lot of lacks of efficiency, let's call it like this. Every year, like, farmers need to invest a lot of money, thousands and thousands of euros or dollars to purchase inputs. And the way they do this is very intransparent. And you can see, or at least how I could see it from my previous experiences, that simply by bringing more transparency into their business, into their decision making, they can save, I don't know, 20, 30% on their inputs.
Wonderful. How does Agrando help farmers run their businesses better?
Generally, we have created like a platform, some sort of digital ecosystem where we connect farmers with local suppliers or retailers. We have built a solution or some sort of toolbox where they can send purchase requests digitally, receive quotes from retailers in their region, across their region, compare quotes, and finally take the cheapest offer. And this way, really helping them saving up to 20, 30% on their input prices.
Excellent. How did you choose Insightly, by the way?
Well, generally, when we started, we were always a very data-driven and tech-focused company, but in the beginning, we did everything with Excel, which was okay because we were only a few guys. But at a certain point, we realized that if we want to really grow and scale this, we need to move away from Excel into a digital solution, starting with customer handling. And this is where we did a little bit of research with some like core requirements that we needed from our system. It needed to be very easy. At the same time, it needed to be very customizable. And something that I find very crucial, we wanted to be able to really visualize what is going on and how we're performing. And that's where we found Insightly to be the most suitable solution.
Well, good. That actually transitions us really nicely when you talk about visualizations and the importance of visualizations. Tell us about the importance of Insightly dashboards to your business.
Generally, as I said, we are very data-driven, and we have now grown also from like a few people, from 40 people last year to 130 people this year. And I personally believe that even like the larger you grow, the more important it becomes to like keep transparency throughout the entire company. So generally what we do, we simply track our performance on a daily basis. We have some like core KPIs that really show whether we are doing good or bad. And we turn those core KPIs into actual Insightly dashboard cards. And I keep them for myself, but we also have them like really visualized on screens in the office, like everywhere, and give every employee, access to those dashboards or screens with the simple idea that we have that, I don't know, when an employee is simply just going for a coffee, he has those screens visible, he sees those dashboards, and he can always see and is always aware whether we're doing good or bad.
I love it. So it's always top of mind. Anywhere anyone's walking around the office, they have access to information. Let's drill down into examples of the metrics that you're looking at. How are you looking at your business with dashboards?
I guess one good example would be conversion rates, a very critical KPI that is important for every company that is trying to sell something. We are working with very classic sales funnels here internally. We have MQL to SQL conversions and SQL to new customers. And generally what we do, well, we have them visual throughout different teams. We visualize them in our marketing team and in our sales team, with the idea that, like, on a real-time basis, we can always see whenever something is not going as planned.
Got it. And so if let's say, for example, you start to see that something isn't going as planned, what do you do in that case? What does this information allow you to do?
I guess it depends, like, where we find or identify those inefficiencies. When we look at sales performances, for example, and we see that, like, among our salespeople, everyone has just like a decreased performance. We look at what's going on in the marketing. This might be caused, for example, not just by the work that our marketing is doing, but simply by, I don't know, seasonality. We are in farming, so our customers are outside, and we need to target our marketing strategies according to the weather, for example. And when we find or identify that here something is going wrong, we simply adjust our marketing strategies, maybe even push in a little bit more leads. Where on the other side, if we see that it's just like a single sales rep that is currently struggling with reaching their performance, we dive deeper here, try to identify the issue, and try to help increasing those performances to the way where they are supposed to be.
Got it. It also sounds like some of what you're doing with dashboards has allowed you to make some organizational changes and optimizations in people and processes. Can you tell the audience a little bit about that?
Well, throughout the past year, I would say, we realized how close marketing and sales is actually working together, how, like, really KPIs that are actually assigned to the sales team is affected by the performance that our marketing team has. So what we did is that we created sort of gateway roles where you have people in the marketing position that is sharing the conversion responsibility of our sales team. So to be precise, like, the MQL to SQL conversion rate is a responsibility that is not only within our sales team, but also within our marketing team. We work Scrum based, so on a regular basis, every 2 weeks, our sales and our marketing team is sitting together. They look at their common data, and they figure out how they can improve, how they can do better, or how they can solve inefficiencies.
Got it. I love that. And I really, coming from the marketing side, I love what you're saying about shared responsibilities amongst sales and marketing. That is great. Keeps everybody aligned and on the same page. I'd like to move to a question for you around, you talked before, when we talked before the webinar, about how you were using dashboards to align around new business opportunities, what some of your processes were for new business. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, of course. Now that we have grown to, like, another level in this organization, we also started to set up our own, like, business development unit. Before, when we were, like, very small, we did pretty much everything together, and business development was just done something like while you go. And now that we have their own team, I find it very important that you keep them aligned with actual business KPIs. So this is not just some sort of idea factory, but they're building something that actually turns into some profit. And what we do here is that we, like, align every decision that is taken in this business development with actual data that we have created in the past. So I'm connecting, or I'm giving my business development team access to, like, certain dashboards where they can see actuals, past performances, conversions, what did work, what did not work. And whenever they're taking a decision, I want to see how this reflects what we have experienced in the past, simply to make sure we're not just randomly creating ideas that don't turn into anything.
Got it. How do you think that you've been able to really push business impact through dashboards, things that have really changed for you since you started using them?
Well, when I compare it to the time before we were working so heavily with dashboards, we still had to do the same kind of analysis. I still had to do my monthly reviews and reports to check like how were we doing month over month. At the same time, like also like on a random day, it might occur that I just needed to get access to certain data. And how I did this was like the old-fashioned way. I like created my exports. I turned those like raw data into pivot tables and turned pivot tables into actual visualizations finally. Which simply cost me a lot of time. So I had like fixed days blocked every month where I would spend the entire day creating those analyses so I could share them among the company and my shareholders. And obviously the same time was also spent by pretty much every department head, everyone that has KPI responsibility, which is simply days of work that we don't have to invest anymore. Something that I personally also find very, very great is that we don't have to deal with human errors anymore. Simply remembering that every time I did this analysis, the outcome would be a little bit different. And I'm very glad that I don't need to do that anymore. And finally, having access to this data in real time is really something that has changed how we are able to do things here now.
Great. What are your plans for future growth with Insightly?
Yeah, as I said, last year was already crazy when we grew from 40 to 130 people. It already changes really the way how you need to cooperate here in this company, because you cannot simply talk to anyone anymore. You need to find other instruments how to communicate, and data is always telling the truth. So generally, the next step for us as a company is that we're going to internationalize. And Europe, this means quickly that we have to deal with different languages, which means that we cannot even communicate anymore. And where I really, or what I really see as a crucial component here, is that we make sure like this growing organization still remains very agile in the way how we process data. And we make sure that every team, every single employee has access to all of the data they really need, but also like does not have the data they don't need. Because also from previous experience, I know too much data and data you don't need simply results in like having no information at all.
Absolutely. Just two more quick questions for you. What is the best thing that Insightly does to help your team succeed?
I would guess it's like among all the things, it's probably the freedom of customization that Insightly has. In the end, what we are trying to do here at Agrando is trying to digitize farming, which is an industry that is highly individual, highly complex, and from farmer to farmer, very, very different. At the same time, internally, we work like with different sales teams. We have customer success teams. We have our own marketing teams, of course, and they're all sort of working with the same data and the same customers. And like with this customization, we were really able to like turn Insightly into a lot of like small individual Insightlies for every individual team. And this is really something that I find very powerful.
Excellent. And finally, any last words of guidance or recommendations for the audience?
I guess if I like had to go or was privileged to go through the same journey all over again, I would have probably started earlier to work with dashboards, like talking about dashboards in this example. Insightly has a lot of cool features and tools, but working with dashboards, especially like in the beginning, is a little bit a hassle to like transform all of your like routine data processes into new processes. But once you have done that, you will save like weeks of days that you don't have to do those old analysis anymore. And you can always be sure that the data remains the same and you're always looking at the same kind of stuff. And if I would if I could recommend anything, I would probably suggest to start earlier working with dashboards.
Wonderful. Well, I just really want to thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Mark, so much for sharing your expertise about dashboards. This has been a really, really good. So again, and thanks so much to the audience for taking the time to join us. If you submitted any questions, if your questions weren't answered yet during the presentation, we'll be sure to get back to you offline. We'll send out the recording via email so that you'll have access to that after the presentation. And finally, our team would really love to learn more about how we can help you reach your objectives and create impact. So don't hesitate to reach out to us and get in touch to kick off the conversation. Thank you so much for joining.